Good morning, gentlemen.
Good to be with you.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you so much for coming today. We have the all-stars of election integrity, or as some would say, election deniers, or I don't know all the nasty stuff they call you, but you guys are the gold standard of shouting to the whole world about questionable elections, and you guys dedicate your life pretty much to election integrity. And I'm so blessed to have you guys here. We have Dr. Douglas Frank, the Johnny Appleseed of elections integrity.
Yeah.
And we have Clint Curtis, the new registrar of voters who wrote the original code for voting machines. These guys for decades have been talking about just trying to make elections more transparent and less chances of voter, can I use the F word? We'll just call it the F word. I don't want to get in trouble, but anomalies, we'll say. So anyways, why don't you guys go ahead and take the floor. You're in Reading to do a town hall today. There's all kinds of stuff cooking right now. This is very exciting. Both of you have been here multiple times now. You're living here now, which is awesome, and we're so blessed to have you guys here today. And thanks so much for taking the time to come here and get the word out.
So I heard Clint Curtis on the radio this morning, and in fairness to him, he's been in election integrity far longer than me. In fact, I'm from Ohio, and there's big testimony that he gave in 2004 in Ohio, and that's one of the places where, I don't know if you knew this, but after that election, the state has expunged all the records associated with 2004. But I can get all the other records from all the other years, but not 2004, and that's the year that really put Clint Curtis on the map, I think.
Was that the congressional testimony, or am I?
He spoke before the legislature in Ohio.
Well, actually, it was a congressional hearing in Ohio because they weren't the dominant party, so they didn't give them a place to have the hearing. So they actually had it in Ohio. Because the dominant party, and it was the Republicans at the time, said, we're not going to have that hearing. We don't want it. So they had to go somewhere else to do it. So they went to Ohio, which was kind of one of the places where the problem was the most obvious because the numbers were completely off. You had the supervisor of elections changing the actual audits so they would match, and admitting it, unfortunately, because then they went to jail, because if they hadn't said anything, no one would know, because they did it all in secret, all in private. So it was kind of the epicenter of the start that you could actually get hold of it, which is why the records no longer exist.
Yeah, they expunged them. And I think that alone says something. But so in fairness, Clint's been in this far longer than I have. I'm a newcomer. I didn't join the election integrity battle till I was asked to do the audit. I was part of the audit in Pennsylvania that Doug Mastriano asked for. Yeah. And so I was given inside access to all the, and for anything I asked for, it's really the only full forensic audit we've had. All the other ones, they've always limited your access, and I was given anything I wanted, and we exposed tons of fraud there. And I was under the naive impression that if you went to a legislature that was a majority Republican and you gave them ironclad evidence with door-knocking confirmation of actual fraud actually taking place. You have the logins, because you have the logins showing who logged in and which ballots were stuffed. I mean, you had the whole thing wrapped up. And by the second week of December after the election, I was working so hard, I was expecting the state to stand up and say, whoa, we have a huge problem with our election. Why? They're majority Republican and their guy lost. And so I was expecting them to challenge the election. And when they covered it all up, that was like stunning to me. I was surprised. Wait a minute, aren't you guys Republicans? Don't you want your guy to win? And so I had to kind of go through an awakening process where, just because you have an R in front of your name doesn't mean that you're on our side. And after that, I did Florida, then North Carolina, then Ohio. And that's when I discovered who Clint Curtis was for the first time. So anyway, I had to go through an awakening process. By the end of 2021, I was really awake, and I realized nothing's going to happen top down, and so I started working grassroots from the bottom up, and that's what I've been doing all around the country, including Shasta. So you can imagine how excited I was to discover that the new ROV in Shasta County is Clint Curtis, as he's a transparent guy, an honest guy, and he wants to work with the community. And I know that in Shasta County, there's been this friction between the grassroots teams and the county supervisors. And I think Clint can be the uniting element. We can all get behind him. So I think of this as an incredible opportunity. The community can come up and help, and we've got an activated community. Hundreds of people here are very engaged in this. And so he'll have all the foot soldiers he needs to clean the voter rolls, which is one of the first tasks that needs to be done. And I think that has a chance to bring the community together. One more thing, and then I should shut up, but I can talk for hours. You know me.
The floor is your guys'.
Is that I learned, I've been going around the country, I've learned a lot of lessons. One of the lessons is you never ask your county leaders to stick their neck out. That's a mistake. You know, I'm the one who helped Tina Peters get the backups in Mesa County. And so what happened is she's the only one. And so all the guns are aimed at the head that sticks up, right? And it's the same way with Shasta County. You know, they're the ones that have been the spearhead. They've been standing up. So the whole state's piling on. So my new strategy, which I've been implementing in multiple states now, is you get multiple counties to come out at the same time. And that way, it's a state problem, not an individual county problem. So one of the reasons I'm up here this time around isn't just to celebrate Clint and do the town hall with him, but I've been organizing the northern counties, 5 or 6 northern counties. We're putting together teams. So what I'm anticipating is going to be happening in the next several months is not only is Clint going to be leading the charge here in Shasta with, well, I don't want to put it that way. The grassroots is leading the charge, and now they've got somebody that they're working with, but other counties are going to be joining in the fight. So it won't just be alone. And so it keeps him out of the crosshairs, so to speak. So I'm very excited about that. And so I'll be back a few times.
Have you ever seen A Bug's Life?
It's a cartoon. Yeah.
Do you remember the scene when the grasshopper? And I haven't actually watched the whole thing, but there's one scene that this clip that I saw that stuck in my mind where one of the grasshoppers goes, "Or just one puny ant stood up," and then the grasshopper pulls the cork out of all the seeds or something they had, and all the beans or the seeds or I forget what it was. The food source came out and just piled up and buried like a dozen of them. And he goes, "You let one ant stand up, and they all stand up. They outnumber us 1,000 to 1 or whatever it was." Yeah.
Yes, that's a great scene. So and that's why we don't really want Clint to stand up, because if he does, then it makes it easy to attack. If the community stands up, who do you attack? And that's the strength of the community. Fortunately, in Shasta County, you've got an awake community, and you've had such horrible. I heard you on the radio this morning talking about Joanna running the last 2 elections, and Patrick Jones pointed out there's some of the worst elections you've ever had, and so the community is awake because of that, and so this is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. Shasta County, I travel the country, so I know where the hot spots are and where the opportunities are. This is a gold nugget right here.
So there was a bunch of people doing a protest at the Kevin Cry's place, and there's some Antifa people there. I mean, they were out there chanting, "No Joanna, no peace. No Joanna, no peace." And I mean, some of these guys had masks on, and there was people out there just. And some of them had a lot of class and had intelligent conversations, but there was a lot of, and I was out there kind of interviewing people, and Clint Curtis was standing right there. And I mean, I got to give him props for,
of course.
He was like, "Hey," I was like, "Hey, the guy you're protesting is right here. Go talk to him," so I hope we can get some conversations going, and I mean, he's willing to talk to anybody, and this is should be a nonpartisan issue. The 100%. Media's done a great job of keeping us divided and picking our football team and doing the opposite of what the other people do. But I mean, the thing is, if we have transparent elections, we can all, maybe we can all trust them again, but hopefully we can work together on this.
I think it's worth noting that I believe you were a Democrat, so
I was.
You were but so I mean, I think
one time.
I think that shows. I almost wish you'd registered as a Democrat, because then we could say, look, we got." But it does. Go ahead.
I'm a Trump Democrat. If you remember, Trump was a Democrat.
That's true too.
John F. Kennedy.
And the things that the Democrats used to stand for. Is kind of what he's doing.
Yes.
We were bring jobs back to America, buy American. tariffs to balance everything out.
Yeah.
And now everything's on its head. So the Democratic Party kind of lost their mind. I don't know where they're headed or what they're doing.
Boy, did they lose their mind.
So it's just really crazy. And like you said with the football team, it doesn't seem to matter what one side does. The other side is immediately outraged by it.
Yeah, on both sides.
Yeah, even if they were doing it before, because before 2020, this was a Democratic issue. Although it never really went anywhere. They'd talk about it and they'd think about it and they'd look at it and you'd see all the little clips on it, but they never really addressed it. Whereas the Republicans have picked up this issue and they're actually doing something about it and trying to get us to elections that everybody can trust. And that's the difference. You know, the elections that Joanna wants to run it's her election. The people don't matter. You can't see anything. I'll tell you who wins and you're done with it. And that is the wrong way to ever have an election. That's where we've gone. Under my way, everybody can see everything. We're going to have cameras on everything. We have observers standing right behind the people, although most of them want to be in the lounge because it'll be a nicer place to be. But we need people right behind there, and then everything will be on camera, on video. Everybody can see everything that goes on. Nothing hidden. If you make a mistake, own it. Before, if you made a mistake, you buried it. You covered it up. And that's essentially what was going on in Shasta County and pretty much all around the country usually. So we're going to fix all that.
Yeah, I think if there's voter fraud or not voter fraud or things being hidden or injected or however, whether it's happening or not, just knowing that it's not happening is really important. And I hope that everybody can realize, like, hey, what can it hurt to just make sure,
right.
You know? And
if it's transparent, everybody will have confidence in it. Right. And what's wrong with that?
I remember Clint said on he said, hey, look, if your race ended up being like, say, 5 votes, you know, and say it was, and you were in a precinct, or I'm sorry, if you were in a district and say there was, 10,000 votes or 8,000 votes or whatever in that district, and you actually you lost by 5 votes, you could have your own team go back and look at the cameras and kind of like do your own kind of audit and find out,
Why not?
go, man, I actually lost by 10, or actually I think I won by 3, or
Right.
and then you could address the issue and you'd actually be able to go back and find out for sure versus just years later going, man, we'll never know the answer to that one.
Absolutely. And you don't have to pay for these huge audits. You don't have to actually say, I'm going to contest the election so you can see it. Because you don't know when you contest it. You have to guess. And the courts are set up so you have to prove something you have no way of proving. So the cases get kicked out because it says you must find every vote you need to win. And by the way, you don't get discovery and you don't get to see these and you don't see this and everything else is redacted. Good luck.
So like it or lump it. The results come out and so that doesn't instill confidence in the people. Clint made a really good point. This is a nonpartisan issue. The Democrats complained about it for 4 years. You remember Hillary was yelling, Russia, Russia, Russia. And I always talk about in Georgia when Professor Haldeman hacked into the machines right in the Dominion machines right in front of the judge in court. And I always ask people, well, do you know who hired Professor Haldeman? And nobody knows. Guess who hired him? Hillary Clinton, 2017, because the Democrats were the ones screaming election fraud for those 4 years. Now the Republicans were screaming. So what are we going to do? Go back and forth, back and forth? No. Let's have it transparent. Let's have we, the people, re-engage our civic duties and get involved in the elections like we were always supposed to be. And then we'll have transparent and people will trust it. And that should increase turnouts, too, because people then trust the outcome. Right now, people are kind of disillusioned. And so I think it's suppressing our turnouts a little bit. Why bother? The whole thing's rigged anyway. Well, now we have a chance. We have an opportunity here. I think this is a wonderful opportunity to set an example, to set a model. And I learned something. I didn't mean to talk too much, but in Florida, there's a guy named Chris Jersky. Have you met Chris? He worked on voter rolls in his county in Florida, and when his clerk cleaned up their rolls, then she started bragging to the other clerks around the state of Florida, and so they were all like, "Well, we want to clean our rolls too," and so it became kind of a competition to see who could have the best rolls. So if Clint and the Shasta County community come together and do a really good job, then you can brag, and maybe the other counties will say, we want to be like them, and so it'll be a good force for the right kind of. You'll be a good model, a good role model.
Hopefully it'll
Absolutely.
catch on, huh?
Yeah, I mean, that would be amazing if this caught like wildfire and we had a united front, like you were saying. I think that's been a major issue when it was. Well, there was other counties doing some stuff, but Shasta County was kind of the tip of the spear.
100%.
Trying to take a lot of this. Obviously, there was a lot of retaliation coming from the state.
100%.
Every time a knee-jerk reaction, and like you said, Dr. Frank, what are they going to do if half of the county stand up at once?
That's right.
It only takes one county to actually get it done, though, to show that it can be done.
Yes.
For other
It
to
makes
set
it
the
easy.
example.
It makes it easier for the other ones to join. Now, Huntington Beach followed up last year. Huntington Beach, the city, they're a charter city in Southern California, Orange County, and they won their lawsuit, by the way, 2 weeks ago. So they announced in April last year that they were going to run their own elections, and the state said, "Wait a minute, you can't do that." And they're like, "We're going to have 120 new precincts. We're going to vote in person. We're going to require photo ID and signature." And the state's like, "No, you can't do that." And they said, "Yes, we can. It says right here in our charter that we can run our own elections," and we are.
Now, so is that on the state elections also, or are they separating the county ballots from the state ballots, or did they actually? I'm just not informed on it. I'm curious.
Well, they're going to be in the 2026 general. They're going to be running that election, and
So even on a countrywide, statewide, the whole shebang.
They're running it.
That's amazing, because I've heard a lot of conflicting views on.
Well, that's the reason it's conflicting is because it's being challenged and there's court cases, and so people are thinking, well, maybe if we try this, and so
it was a gray area.
It's a gray area now, but they just won a lawsuit 2 weeks ago, which empowers them in the right direction. But the point I'm trying to make is that while Shasta's the spearhead, and so they're getting all the blowback from the state, but their willingness to stand empowers Huntington and Huntington Beach. And the reason I'm up here this week is because I've been up traveling through the northern counties, rounding up some more support. I don't want Shasta County to be the only county making a stand, but the fact that they have, and the fact that now they've got Clint and a community rising underneath it, will inspire the other counties to join. So that's why I'm here, and I'm very excited. I don't want to give away names yet, but I've got 4 or 5 more counties up there that are right now tooling up to do exactly the same things in those counties that Shasta's doing now. So I'm pretty excited about this opportunity.
I hope there's some people at the state level shaking in their freaking boots right now.
Yeah. Well,
we'll know if they pass a bill tomorrow.
That's exactly right. Because every time Shasta did something, the state would run in and pass a bill to try to stop the other counties from joining.
In fact, there's a bill out now. I don't know if it's going to pass or not. Appropriations was yesterday, so I don't know if it got funded. But basically, the ROV has to certify the election if you think it's correct, right? If you think it's a problem. They are now trying to take that away and saying it's purely ministerial, that if you don't certify it, the state can.
They're turning you into a dumb terminal.
Yeah. So why even ask us?
Yeah.
I would say let's not certify anything. Make them do it every time.
Yeah, and people are dumb enough to support the state taking away our local rights because if it goes in favor of what they want.
Right.
But they don't realize that will flip and turn on
Yes.
them. It's I compare it to freedom of speech sometimes. You have to protect everyone's freedom of speech, because you can't be like, you can't want censorship if on the people you don't like what they hear, because things can change. The next thing you know, you don't have a voice anymore. So anyways, I think we have to, whether you like the outcomes of things or you like who's in power at the time, at least on a local level, you can have some kind of control.
I've been telling everybody about President Trump, and everybody loves all these executive orders he's doing. They're fun. I mean, it's actually fun to watch the news again. I mean, it's cool stuff.
There's too many of them. You can't possibly keep up.
But it's actually a disaster, if you ask me, because we're not. That's not our country. Our country is not supposed to be run by a leader at the top and making executive orders. It's supposed to be managed by the Congress. And the executive orders are supposed to be a limited number and just administrative kind of things. And I remind people, every one of these executive orders can be undone by the next president and the next administration. And so it's all temporary. I liken it like in World War II. He's giving us air cover. He's bombing Berlin, but we have to occupy Normandy. It has to be we the people have to ratchet in any progress that's being made, because everything that's happening from him is potentially only temporary. And we're headed for an interesting midterm. I'm a numbers guy, and then the midterm is going to be an interesting situation. My prediction right now, sad to say, unless God gives us another miracle, my prediction is we're going to lose the midterms. And what do you think the first thing is going to happen in Congress when the Republicans don't have the majority anymore? What do you think is going to happen? Same thing happened last time, is they're going to impeach the president. And here we go.
Here you go again.
Here we go again. And so I think we've only got really 1 year of kind of clean sailing, smooth sailing. We need to seize this moment.
And that's why we have to get this done, so it can get done everywhere. And then you're not going to have any funky things in the midterms. You may lose them.
Fair enough.
But you'll lose them fairly.
Yes.
And as far as the executive orders, yeah, they're a little overblown.
Yeah.
But what else can he do?
Right.
Because the Congress isn't moving.
Right.
And the direction of the country was wrong. Mm-hmm. And if they can push through fair elections through the executive orders, then maybe that will guarantee that at least the midterms will be fair. So
if they're fair, I appreciate what Clint said. I don't care if we lose. I mean, I care. But I mean, I just want them free and fair. And that's what matters to me. And they're not right now. And basically, and I like what he says, and you just have to like it or lump it. They're not free and fair. We know there's a problem, and then they just tell us you have to just swallow this pill anyway. And it's like that alone is waking people up and getting people to engage. And now that people are suffering, I was just up in Siskiyou County the other day, and they blew up all their dams. And now all their rivers are a mess, and they don't have the water reserves that they need during a drought, and they don't have all that clean, free power that they used to have. Clean and free. I mean, environmentally clean power. And it's like the people there are angry, but they're super conservative. So I'm saying to them, you guys are a super conservative county. How come you aren't winning the elections? And they're like, yeah, how come we're not winning the elections? And I'm like, well, maybe you need to take back your elections so that you can make sure they're transparent and free and fair. Oh, yeah, good idea. Why don't we do that? So that's where we're headed.
And part of the issue is that the computers can cheat you.
100%.
They might not, but they can.
Right.
And a lot of people think it's actually like the vendors that are doing it. I think it's beyond that, far beyond that.
I agree.
Because in Texas 22,
yeah.
I'll try and find that slide and we'll show it tonight at the event.
Sure.
But at Texas 22 at 8:34 p.m., the Democrat and the Independent in 8 separate counties with 3 different vendors had exactly the same number of votes. Mm-hmm. Not the same percentage, exactly the same number of votes. Like if one county had 24, the Independent had 24 too. A minute after, everything changed back. But that's simply math going on. From a computer prospect, that you're putting your monies together so you can start throwing things around where you want to. There's no other reason for that to occur that way. But what I'm going to try and do is everything will be at the precinct. All of the mail-in ballots will not get opened early. Everything sits at the precinct. It gets opened at the precinct. Then it gets in your stacks of 50 at the precinct. That will be under camera, available to everyone. So this is before the machine can touch it. So if the machine has a problem, you'll catch it. You then transfer that back to Central County. Count it again. That should be exactly the mirror image of the one you counted in the first place. If there isn't, there's a problem with the transfer. Then you run it through the machine. And then you reconcile again. This should be a mirror image of the one before it. If it's not, something happened during the process of running it through the machine. But everyone will know. Every step, all transparent, everybody sees it. If the machine actually cheated you, it would be the dumbest thing they could do.
Right.
Because you now have evidence that the court would accept that this machine counted wrong.
Clarify that just a little bit, Clint. You were saying you're going to count the ballots. Are you actually going to count the votes too, or just count the ballots?
Just stacks.
Are you going to make images of the ballots as you go?
So that it's going to be on video.
So that every ballot, you could see how...
You'll see every ballot.
And so you can see, you're not going to tally the votes, but anybody who wanted to go back and watch the video could tally the votes.
Could slow it down
and look at every ballot. And so then that way you could verify that the machines. Now, I always tell people that it doesn't matter how you count the ballots. You could count them by hand. You could count them, standing on your head. You can count them with the machines. To me, the main cheat isn't necessarily happening in the machines. It's you need to make sure that every ballot came from the voter you think it came from. Garbage in, garbage out. So at least, though, and I appreciate his strategy, at least we know that the counting process has integrity.
Right.
Now we need to secure the input process. We need to make sure that every one of those ballots, and California has a big problem with that, because in California, you mail ballots to everybody in the rolls, and guess what? Your rolls are filthy dirty. So you're basically littering the pavement. So that's why he's got the back end figured out, and I love that, and that's going to all be transparent and auditable so that community can have confidence in that. That's why I'm going to be talking about at the work session this afternoon, and then at the public town hall this afternoon. I'm going to be having the community help Clint clean the voter rolls so that the ballots that get mailed out are really going to real voters. Now, that doesn't mean that everything has integrity in that process, because once you lose chain of custody, things can happen. But it's a big step forward. And then if we have auditing procedures that we develop for that side of it, now we would bring those two together. Now you have a chance for a free and fair election.
And with your mail-ins, we're also going to have signature verification software that's set at a reasonable level and kicks a certain number out. That's how we'll know it's good, because we'll kick a certain number out.
Yum.
That will all be under video as well. So everyone will be able to compare those signatures. Right now, if you were at their last election, they were zooming through them at 1.3 seconds per signature, which is really good. Except that was a person doing it.
Yeah.
1.3 seconds?
Yes, as fast as you can press a button.
Yeah.
Basically.
People are just looking at it, and they're not looking to filter, they're looking to pass
Right.
ballot. And so that looks right, that looks right, that looks right.
I wonder if they challenged mine in 1.3 seconds, because my signatures all look identical to what was at the ROV. Because I'm signed up with the state to get an email if there's a problem with my ballot. I got an email, your ballot didn't get counted. And I was like, well, what the heck's going on here? Went down to the ROV. I said, hey, and they showed me the signatures. I'm like, it's like a big I'm like, okay. And they're like, here, fill this form out and everything. But I was just wondering how, I don't know. I felt a little bit like, what? Because my signature's been the same. Anyway, sorry to
Clint, what about people voting in person? What if they, what do you think about that? I'm not encouraging you to do it, discouraging. I'm asking the question rhetorically. Everybody gets mailed a ballot. What if they brought them in person? Then you could have a collection of ballots that are the real deal, because they actually came, and then you'd have a collection that were a group that were not necessarily as secure, let's put it that way. If I bring you my ballot and say, here's my ID, Clint, and here's my ballot, then that's me.
Except in California, you don't need to give me an ID yet.
But what if I did? I mean, I'm proposing
So
this.
I don't know it's you, right? All I know is you're giving me a ballot and you say it's you.
Right, but if I give you an ID and a ballot, and wouldn't it be fun for you? I don't know, I'm just asking the question rhetorically. What if the community got behind Clint Curtis and said, hey, Clint, we're going to give you a stack of ballots where every one of these have been by our own volunteering. We're showing you. So these are really secure ballots, because we've turned them in. We've given you an ID. You know it's us. Then we've got some that are a little less secure because they came through the mail. And then here's some that they're suspect. And what that would allow us to do is it would allow us to focus on the suspect ballots too, and to, if we're concerned. Because right now you have this huge pile, and how do you know where to look? Well, if we concentrated your effort, if there were problems.
Kind of like having a GMO verified, GMO-free verification on.
Yeah.
That way Clint knows not to eat it, because he only likes GMO with a lot of sugar. I'm just joking. He's like, wait a minute, I'm not doing that now.
Only sugar.
I mean, there's no reason why a person couldn't bring in their ballot. There's no reason they have to put it in the mail, right? And
Correct.
People always say, oh, I went online and they counted my ballot, Dr. Frank. And I'm like, how do you know? How do you know they didn't count somebody else's ballot first and then yours was rejected after that? Or how do you even know that somebody didn't intercept it in the mail? If the only way to really be sure that your ballot is the one that gets into the process is if you hand deliver it and put it in his hand. And what are you going to do about that? Are you going to check them in electronically when they come in, or how are you going to like? Let's say I mail my ballot in. You said you weren't going to open them. That's great. I appreciate that. But you're going to check in the fact that Doug Frank turned in his ballot.
Yes.
Yeah. Then that way, if another one comes in, that one's out.
We have a problem.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think it's important that there's a group of people who turn it in person with their ID. If I'm turning it into you in person and you check it electronically and say, wait a minute, you already turned in your ballot, Doug. I'm like, no, here's my ballot. So we know that first ballot, and you haven't opened it yet.
I
So
haven't opened it, and I can
still
find
go
the other
find
ballot.
it. Cha-ching. I like the way he's thinking. So you see where I'm going. I think the best way for the people to vote is in person, just like we did for hundreds of years. And if they come in, then that would support Clint's a reasonable attempt to have integrity.
What they're doing now, when they open them, they open it and they put it in the mix. You can't take that ballot
No way
back.
to take it out again.
So the next person who comes in and tries to vote, if it's the same person, doesn't get to vote.
Once it's separated,
Once it's separated, it's mixed. You
It's
don't know who it
anonymous.
is anymore.
Yeah.
it's just a stack of
It's lost.
papers.
Now, wait a minute, though. You're Clear Ballot, right?
We're paper.
But I mean, the company you're using is.
It was that one out of Arizona before. I don't know what we're going to be.
It used to be Dominion, but the new one I think is Clear Ballot. I think you guys are using and
We were using Runbeck.
Rumbeck from Arizona.
Runbeck prints the ballots, but the machine you're using to tabulate. Hart Intercivic. That's right. That's right. It is. It's Hart Intercivic.
And Hart's one of the better ones.
It is.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
I've looked at all of them, and
if it was Clear Ballot,
if I had to pick one out of a list, Hart would be it.
I would agree. Clear Ballot actually has barcodes on every ballot, so the ballots are not anonymous, and people don't even realize that. But I'm in several counties. Those just came up from Monterey. Several of the counties are using that, and the people think their ballots are anonymous, but they're not.
Well, is the barcode an independent number that ties to them?
Yes.
Or is it just an independent number?
It's a number that ties to them. In fact, their numbers, their name, there are 3 barcodes at the top,
really?
and their name is actually on it. I mean, it's like they don't realize it.
Right.
I would love to see a random serialized number, maybe generated for not necessarily like that number's always attached to you, but maybe it's different every time.
Yeah.
So when you get your ballot, you can write that number, you can have that number,
and you can make sure
and
later
then you can go onto the online art, because right now you can go and see if you voted, but you don't know actually who you voted for,
and you don't know if that's really your ballot that got counted in your name,
or if you didn't vote, or you can be like, hey, let's see if you voted. Well, I guess you can still see if you voted, but you just don't know who you voted.
Well, and actually, the county purchased that option to put the serialized number on it randomly, and they paid for it, and it was never turned on.
Oh,
at
well,
the ROV's office.
that's great news.
so
no cost. You have to flip a switch.
I saw, I forget where it was, but some people were writing their own serial number on it, because when they took the picture of it, I forget the name of that, when they could go online and see their own their own custom serial number that they wrote with a pen was on there.
Although the problem with that is that will get kicked out for hand counting.
Yeah, it will kick, because it's stray mark. It's called a stray mark.
Okay. Well, that's irrelevant.
So if you put that
point.
on there, then it'll get kicked out and has to be counted separately. Which it'll be on camera, so it'll be okay for us. But in some cases, provisional ballots and ballots with stray marks, there's been indications that maybe they don't get counted at all. They leave them in a stack, and if the election isn't close enough for a particular area, they just leave it and don't even count it.
Now, Clint's strategy, you notice, is that he's leaving the ballot in the envelope until all the envelopes are in, and then he's fixed the denominator at that point. These are the number of ballots we're going to count. Then he opens them up. So, in a sense, he is sort of keeping the ballot with the name until that point, and that's perfectly fine
at the precinct.
Exactly, and so there's no. The extra step of the serial number might actually be not a good idea. We can argue both ways, because now the ballot isn't anonymous anymore. So it depends. If you want an anonymous ballot,
if it isn't opened, then they open it there, stack them up, and then they're good to go.
Then we're good. That's it. That's where I'm.
You got to separate them from the list.
So I lean his way more than the serial number way. But the problem is that once you have a serial number, there's a key that connects the ballot to the name. and all you need is that key, and I can know how every person voted. Now, maybe I don't care.
Well, it's randomized, so
yeah,
it gives you a randomized number. The serials are.
So you can do both, and it would still be anonymous.
It'll be anonymous, and then you take that, and we're going to stuff them ourselves. We're not going to have anybody else do them.
That's right.
So we do our own mailing, so no one's going
That's
to be
huge.
No one's going to be matching this number with a person.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Okay, I'm good. I'm good for that.
And we're going to be bringing in volunteers to do that, as well as
Beautiful.
staff. And so everything, the mailings will come out from the office. We're not paying $250,000 to have somebody else stuff envelopes for us.
So at what point are we going to know how many ballots are? Because this really bothered me in previous elections here in Shasta County and nationwide too. But you're like, oh, we've got this many ballots left. And then you look the next day or a couple days later and there's an update.
Even more now.
And then there's more ballots. And you're like, well, wait, I thought they had 7,000 left. And now 2 days after counting, now there's 14,000 left.
Yeah, they just keep
it
finding
always
them.
just bothered me. And I'm not saying that they were just showing up later, but it really bothered me. I'm like, how many freaking ballots are there left?
Well, we have an option. Hart has a printer that is a high-speed printer, so technically we could print it in-house, so we have to put the money thing together there. But if that's the case, we'd only print the number of ballots that are needed for a particular precinct, because we know basically how many people are going to be there. And then we'll also have a print-on-demand printer. They're much slower, but you have those at the precincts, and then if someone comes in, then they get that one printed. They've ruined it and there's not enough around, or we get some big surge that, we probably print like 10% more than a precinct usually gets. But if we have 15% more, we're going to be hand printing some.
Right.
And then we're going to have some floaters out there too, because we got a big county. So, I can't do 12 printers at each one.
No.
So, I can have 2 and then a floater, and then if somebody goes down, we can get that other printer out there and bring it back. So,
Are you a voter's choice county? I don't remember. They can vote any precinct they want, or do they have to vote in their own precinct?
They vote in the precinct.
They have to.
Or you can go to the county club.
That's fine.
Downtown.
Yeah, in person. No worries with that. There are a lot of counties in California, they call them Voters' Choice, VCA, Voters' Choice Act in California, that several of the counties have gone, I think around 30 of them, have gone to where you can vote anywhere you want in the county. And so then all the ballots are print on demand, because you go to the precinct and they print the ballot that fits your precinct, because they can't have all the ballots at every precinct. And I hate that system, because basically it makes the whole thing all connected and electronic and easy to cheat.
It mixes the numbers too.
Yeah.
Because now you don't know who's going where or what's going in, and it's just a mess.
No,
don't do
that's
that.
wild.
You said a key word a minute ago that to me is really, really critical. I've analyzed the data in California multiple times, whole state, and nothing reconciles. And I would love to see, since you're going to have a transparent process, I would love to see finally in California a county reconcile. What do I mean by reconcile? We have a list of names of people who voted, and we have a total number of ballots we counted. And wouldn't it be nice if we knew
actually matched?
If it actually matched? And we ask ROVs all the time. Give us a list of people who voted, and they give you a list, and it doesn't match the total ballots. In other words, the ROVs don't know who voted in their own election. And that's one of the ways I prove to them that they're not in control of their own election. Now, one of the things I heard Clint say, which is very exciting to me, is he's not going to job out. He's not going to contract out to have the ballots printed. You're printing them in-house. You're mailing them yourself. So you're controlling that step. And that is a big plus, because then you're not going to be sending it to people aren't real voters, whereas the state would just be papering the sidewalks with ballots. So you actually have an opportunity to actually reconcile, which is cool. I'm looking forward to that.
And we're going to reconcile when we get the ballots at the precinct.
Yep.
When we bring them back to Central.
Yes.
And after they've gone through the machine. Those numbers should all be the same. The ballots at the precinct should be the same as the number of voters at that precinct, plus, of course, the mail-ins. But we'll have those numbers.
And so you'll be able to reconcile.
Right.
Imagine that.
And, of course, you'll have spoiled ballots, that little thing is
Yeah.
So I've told the story so many times. I'm going to say it really fast because I know people that watch the shows regularly. And you guys have both heard this, but I mean, in 2020, I moved to a new address. I got... I registered 7 days before. I didn't get my mail-in ballot. I went to the precinct on election day. I went in there and said, hey, I don't got a mail-in ballot because I re-registered. I was like, oops, I got to re-register to vote at the new address because I didn't want to have a fraudulent vote.
Right.
Go in there and they go, okay, they hand me a list of papers. and it had a bunch of names on there, and they're like, "Find yourself on here," and I was like, "Okay," and it was all alphabetical. It was
Find
really easy to
yourself
find
on there.
I'm telling you, I swear to you, this is what happened. And I open it up and I go, "Here I am, right here, John Knight." And they go, "Okay," and then they get on the phone and called like the state, I think, and then they go, "We just want to make sure this John Knight guy's registered to vote." And they verified it, and then they go, "Okay, here's your ballot." And I was like, "No ID," and they're like, "You can show it if you want," but and I was just kind of like, man, I could have went in there and said
they even gave you the list of names.
And the thing is how hard would it be if to get that list if you had people corrupt on the inside and you kind of knew who was prone to not vote, you know, and you could just be like, this guy hasn't voted in the last 5 elections. I'm going to vote for him. And you could have a people getting bussed around with the list. You'll know which precinct to go vote at and who to vote for and what are the, you know, I don't know. Just
that's one of the problems with not having any ID. And you have to have ID for anything else in the world. You know, if you go to the airport, you have to have ID.
Yeah,
so you drive a car, you better have your ID with you. I mean, some may not, but
is it illegal? I mean, I know it is illegal to do voter ID in California.
Presently, voter ID is not required in California.
That doesn't stop me from taking my license and out, show it to him on my own.
You can show me on your own, yes.
On my own, but he can't ask.
I can't ask.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was an interesting
question. Really stupid. And basically, this happened in Florida back in, I think it was 2003 or something. We had gone from you had to have an ID, but basically it's a voter registration card, which didn't have a picture on it, to a photo ID in Florida. So a lot of the Democrats were worried that people were going to have trouble getting the documentation to get the ID. So I organized everybody to set up these organizations, set up free ways that people could get their birth certificate, get everything. It wasn't that hard, right? It took like a dozen phone calls in a day. Got it all set up. 3 counties, Volusia, Brevard, and Seminole. I had 150 people show up that actually wanted that, 150. And only about 50 of them then registered to vote. Everybody just wanted the free birth certificate.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes. But there is a way around it and still have an ID. You don't have to just go blind, you know. So it's something that could be addressed, and I think voter ID is a much better idea. And I think if people really don't have these documents, they should get them anyway. Not just for a voter ID, but for everything else.
Sure.
You know.
And let's just be honest, we're talking about a very, very small percentage of people that don't have identification because you need it for pretty much everything.
It was 3 counties, probably took in, I don't know, 4 million people.
Yeah.
And I'd be curious if the percentage of people that don't have ID that don't vote, even if they don't need an ID. I mean, I don't know how you get those numbers, but it's kind of like we need a machine everywhere because of we're going to disenfranchise handicapped voters. Where those people that would not be able to vote because they're handicapped is such a small percentage, there would be many other ways to tackle that obstacle, you know. But
I think another element that's going to be very interesting in the coming months is that Trump is up there signing executive orders. And when I was at CPAC several months ago with Mr. Lindell, Mr. Lindell gave his talk, and then he was whisked away to the White House. And he got to spend 90 minutes with the president in the Oval Office. And Mike gave the president a report that part of it was some of my work. And what was very fun about it is that it was a checklist of things we were requesting that we wanted the president to do. And it's been very fun for me to watch week by week. He's going down the checklist. And one of the first things you notice was on our list is we wanted to get Tina Peters out of prison. And one of the first things he announced the following week was the Justice Department is looking into lawfare allegations there. And so, in other words, it's fun to watch him go down the list. And on that list, there are some things that we know are coming up. Like he's going to declare federal elections a single day holiday. So there's no excuse to not have plenty of volunteers, and why wouldn't you want to do in-person voting for federal elections? So we know these executive orders are coming down the pike, so it's going to be fun. I've been telling people, don't wait for the executive order to prepare. That's reactive. Be
Right.
proactive. And now you've got somebody who's already proactively doing all the right things. So what's going to happen is this executive order is going to come down and Clint's going to say, oh, no big deal. We're already ready here. We're already
Did that
ready
last
here.
week.
We did that. Exactly. So you guys are like ahead of the curve. And other counties are going to be like, well, why aren't we keeping up? Well, get with the program. So
Right.
it's going to be an interesting year we have coming up. It'll be fun to watch.
Want to be?
Oh, I'm very excited, but everybody knows me. I keep it like right here because it's like a lifetime commitment for me. So while everybody else is crying if they don't get things their way, I'm just right here. And if everything goes the way I want, I like keep it right here. So I'm really excited, but I don't like the ups and downs.
Right.
So I just try to keep it like steady. It's like a long run for me. You know, it's not a sprint. It's a marathon, like a really long one. You know, so. But I am very excited. Absolutely.
One of the things that will empower Clint that I'm very excited about, and I've been doing this in Oregon especially. Oregon right now is being sued by Judicial Watch because their voter rolls have 105% of their people in it. Okay, and
That's not bad.
the voter rolls are not in compliance with federal law, and Judicial Watch has been doing these lawsuits for several years now, and they win every one of them because they don't sue unless they know they're going to win.
Right.
Now, the day that it comes out that their voter rolls are out of compliance with federal law, I already have multiple counties that I've been working with up there, and this comes directly from my experience in Shasta. Instead of having one county stand up, you have multiple counties stand up. So I've prepared multiple counties. So when the day that the court rules that the voter rolls are out of compliance with federal law, several counties are going to stand up and say, as a matter of fact, we've been doing our homework. This is proactive, not reactive. They're going to sit up and say, as a matter of fact, we've already got a list of all the fraudulent people in our rolls and the dirty rolls. And so we're going to comply with federal law rather than the state law. So they're not breaking the law. They're saying it's been proven in court that our state is violating the law. So guess what? We're going to do the responsible thing. We're going to run our own election because the state's way of running it is illegal. We're going to comply with federal law. But notice it's not just one county. It's multiple counties together. So that's a really, I'm looking forward to that. And that ties into the executive orders. That ties into the lawsuits. So there's a lot of stuff coming up here shortly. And I'm trying to arrange the same thing for Shasta. I don't want you guys to be the only county, which is why we're arranging some of the other counties. I want to be proactive, not reactive.
But we need it quickly anyway because you got a midterm coming up. And the midterm could swing wildly.
And you only just got appointed a couple of weeks ago, right?
Yes.
So how long do you
4
have
days.
to prepare for that? How long do you have to prepare for that?
Well, we're actually going to do a mock election. We're actually in the process of doing a mock election now so people actually learn to do it right.
Oh, good.
And
good for you.
Since they're going to be on camera, they're going to be a little scared. So we're probably going to do another one when they're done. And then we're going to do a big one. We're shooting for 90 days when the public can see it. It's all under camera and the whole 9 yards. So
You're going to work the glitches out.
yes.
And so you're going to he's being proactive, not reactive. And so everything will run smoothly. That's awesome.
Well, yeah, if there's any overspray issues, we'll.
No, there won't be any
I'm
overspray
just-
issues. I can pretty much assure you of that.
You're not going to use Runback to print the ballots. You print them yourself, or
Well,
are you going to use your local printing company or something?
It's not final yet, but I'm checking into Hart being able to use their machine with their paper.
Yeah.
Because their paper is 7 cents a ballot. The stuff we got from Runback was $2.20 a ballot.
Oh,
And theirs even has a watermark on it, which is kind of nice too.
yeah.
So for 7 cents, and they guarantee that their paper ran on their printer will work in their machine. They don't guarantee third-party products.
So there you go.
7 cents versus $2.20.
Wow.
Right.
And 75,000 voters times $2 a piece. There's $150,000 right there.
I think we paid them almost $250,000 to do the end.
Oh, wow.
But
And
part
what
of
did
that was the stuffing and the mailing, but you know.
Sure, but
You have to pay for the
but
mailing.
look what happened with all the overspray and everything, right? I mean, what a
Right.
disaster that was.
And we're going to see if we can recover some money from the state
Wonderful.
because when California passed its providing mailing both directions, they also did it as a state mandate, which means they have to pay for it.
The state has to pay for it.
State has to pay for it. But Shasta County never billed for it, ever.
Oh my goodness.
So they've been letting, $250,000 sit on the table every year and just throwing it away.
Oh, that's huge for your budget. I was in one of your public supervisor meetings, and I remember a lady standing up and saying, "You promised me a well in my district, and years ago, and I still don't have it." And I don't remember who it was. One of the county supervisors that said, "Yeah, it's $250,000. We haven't been able to find it in the budget." You just found it in the budget.
Especially if they'll let me go back 10, 15 years.
Oh my goodness!
Because that's how long it's been on the bat books, and they haven't billed.
So we're talking.
But other counties have billed for it. You don't know yet.
I don't know, but
yeah,
that's the law,
Oh, the law is the law. There you go.
The law is the law, and it says that this is going to be compensated for by the state general fund. All you got to do is fill out the form.
Fill out the form, baby.
And they didn't fill out the form.
That's probably because the ROVs, I always want to say clerks because that's what they are called in most states, but in California you call them ROV.
They switch hats.
Voters.
They're both.
Yeah. It's probably because the clerks don't clerks don't follow the law. The clerks go to these state clerks associations meeting where they're trained what to think, say, and do, and they just go down the checklist and do the think, saying, and doing that they're told to do. They don't really read the law. So I wonder if Kathy Darling Allen or we call her Clementine, or Joanna even knew. Because maybe they don't even mention it at the state meetings.
I think you're supposed to read it.
You're supposed to read the law. Yeah, it'd be nice if that was your job, that if you followed the law, it'd be nice.
If I'm looking through the mailing, I will read the whole law, and especially something that jumps out at me like, ooh, I get this compensated.
Especially since you're a Florida guy. Now you got to learn California law.
Yeah. Well, I've had to learn other law, too. So it's all the same but different. Just read the words and know what they mean.
Right. All right. Well, what else? Anything else, you guys? Or
I'm just so excited. I think this is like a moment in Shasta County history, an opportunity where there's been a lot of friction between the grassroots and the supervisors, and I think everybody can come together and not a lightning rod. You're a focal point. This focal point is bringing everybody together. It's a great opportunity for Shasta County. I'm really looking forward to it.
But they actually want the same things,
right?
So how they drifted apart, arguing with the little things, I don't understand. Just come back together.
Let's come together around Clint and make
eyes
this happen.
on the prize.
100%.
You should tell them about the event tonight before you sign off.
Yeah. So
well, go ahead, guys. We're gonna go ahead and we'll wrap this up, and then we're gonna do a shorter one,
a short commercial.
Yep, and then that way we can get it out really fast.
Okay. Yeah.
So you can edit that part out.
All right.
Well, hey, thank you guys so much for being here in Shasta County, coming here to Mountaintop Media today, just to get the word out. We're getting the football to the end zone. We're not getting it down the field. We're getting it to the end zone.
Big time.
United front with all these different counties. This is very, very exciting. Right here in Shasta County, I couldn't be happier to be anywhere else, and blessed to have such a great community, and then people coming from other places to come and back us up and help us in this fight to get our voter integrity, which I think is probably the most sacred thing we have as a citizen. I don't know what else is more.
We don't have a republic if we don't have that.
Exactly. So any final thoughts you guys want to go with? All right.
I'm looking forward to the future.
All right. Me too. I'm going to enjoy the now and look forward to the future.
Yes.
And it's very exciting. Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys, so much.